Minnesota students can go back to school with a feather in their cap. They're #1 in the nation for ACT scores.
But if you take a closer look at the numbers, you see a huge gap when it comes to race. 61% of white students met college readiness standards compared to 16% of blacks. And that is not the only test where we fall far behind. So why is our achievement gap larger in Minnesota compared to most other states? Good question. And Heather joins us right now. So you found there's really no easy answer.
No, there isn't, Amelia and Frank. You know, there's no tidy response to this kind of question when it comes here about why things happen, how these things happen. But I'll tell you, there's a lot of really smart people working on this issue, and everyone I talked with today say this is one of the most difficult and complex issues that we as Minnesotans face.
It's saddening to even stand here.
When it comes to fourth grade test scores, Minnesota kids overall rank 5th or 6th from the top. But when it comes to the gap between black and white students, we're 5th or 6th from the bottom.
I don't know how to explain it. All I can say is what I do for mine. Tutors, tutors, tutors.
One of the reasons that this inequality is so great is that whites here do exceptionally well. The white population here is very well educated, is very healthy, is very prosperous.
Myron Orfield is a professor at the U of M Law School.
The good question to ask is why haven't blacks that live here locally been able to keep up with whites in the same way, enjoy the same prosperity that whites do? And I think that's rooted a lot in the very deep racial segregation that we have between whites and blacks.
I feel as though racism still exists.
Does it have to do with racism?
I think that a part of it does.
Orfield points to Minnesota's large incarceration gap, lending gap, employment gap, housing gap.
When we build all the affordable housing that we build now in poor neighborhoods,
And highly concentrated pockets of poverty.
compared to a place like Portland, Oregon, or Seattle, which is white, very white like we are, we're much more segregated than they are.
3% of teachers in Minnesota are minorities.
So it doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't matter. It's all about the teacher and what they're willing to teach.
Compared to 10% of students.
The vocabulary, the words that they use, and the understanding.
We used to do a really good job at trying to provide that equality of opportunity, and we really don't do much anymore.
Give them a chance and opportunity so they could, be just like you and others.
Orfield says in the 70s and the 80s here in Minnesota, we really stopped pushing the civil rights laws, especially when it comes to integration. He said then in the 90s, we moved back a lot of the affordable housing to the cities from the suburbs, which made a huge difference when it came to segregation.
Well, it's such a troubling issue, especially when you see those numbers, but you did find some rays of hope?
We did. A lot of the experts I talked with today, actually all of the experts we talked with today, say Minnesota's huge investments in early education, they hope will make a big difference 10, 20 years down the road.
Let's hope it doesn't take that long. But
Thank you, Heather.